Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 164. Lesson from Quran Al-Hakim by thinker of Quran, Allama Ahmad Parwez. Relationship between man and the external universe. My dear friends, today is the 23rd of February, 1969. Last Sunday, due to bad weather, the lesson from the Quran was missed. Today, we begin with Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 164 to 16:4. The method of presenting invisible fundamental realities according to the Quran. In the previous verse, it was said, وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ الرَّحِيمُ 2:16:3, that in the entire universe, authority and power belong only to one God. Apart from him, no one possesses authority. Now observe, this is the fundamental truth of religion, that sovereignty belongs to only one being. But at the same time, this is an abstract truth, a subtle, intangible, and invisible reality which cannot be seen or physically sensed. For such realities that the Quran presents, the arguments it provides are always drawn from the world of perception and experience. The Quran has a unique style. To explain a fundamental abstract truth, the best way is to bring it forth through perceptible evidence. Thus, when the Quran declares that sovereignty in the universe belongs to one being alone, it points towards the external universe, the world of concrete, the perceptible universe, and brings forth its order and system. Then it asks, tell me, what conclusion does your observation, your experience, and your study lead you to? This statement was made 1400 years ago. The unchanging principle of unity of law for the entire universe, beyond cause and effect. Among the greatest discoveries of science regarding the fundamental laws of this universe, two stand out as the most basic. The first is the law of cause and effect, قانون علة ومعلول, that every event which occurs has a cause behind it, and each cause consistently produces a particular type of result. The second is the law of uniformity of nature, that throughout the entire universe there exists a unity of law. One single law operates everywhere without exception. Observe that this unity of law is one of the most profound revelations of science, and the Quran, in support of its claim that sovereignty in the universe belongs to only one being, presents this very principle as evidence. From this arises an even more important question. I have already mentioned that in the previous verse it was stated, وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, your God is one God. And immediately after that, the next verse comes before us. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَالْفُلْكِ الَّتِي تَجْرِي فِي الْبَحْرِ بِمَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِن مَّاءٍ فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا وَبَثَّ فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ دَابَّةٍ وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ وَالسَّحَابِ الْمُسَخَّرِ بَيْنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. It says, reflect upon this external universe. The Quran brings forth every aspect of the system and order of the universe, the alternation of night and day, the ships laden with heavy cargo that sail across the sea like ducks gliding, the rainfall from clouds, the revival of dead earth through that water, the spread of all living creatures upon it, the changing directions of winds, and the clouds subdued between heaven and earth. All these phenomena, it declares, are signs, proofs, and evidences. Evidence of what? Evidence that وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, there is only one sovereign, one authority. But who are these signs for? لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ, for a people who use intellect and reason. This reality is now before you, the same truth I have been repeating for years. Islam is not a religion, it is a deen, a complete system of life. Nature and consequences of religious concepts found worldwide, in contrast to deen. Among the distinguishing aspects between religion and deen, one fundamental difference is that in religion, the ultimate goal of human life is the salvation of the individual. Salvation, mukti. Beyond this, religion has no further purpose. The method for this is conceived as a private relationship between God and the individual. In the realm of religion, man has no connection with the universe or its system and order. Not only is there no connection, but religion actually teaches man to flee from this universe. To consider this material world as detestable is the very foundation of religion. This is the common feature found in every religion across the world. For in the religious worldview, salvation means the soul escaping from the mire of matter. If matter is seen as dense, filthy, and swamp-like, trapping the soul, and liberation from it is the ultimate goal, then naturally this material universe will be regarded with contempt. Thus, what should be man's perspective regarding this universe? Religion has no concern with it. In fact, within the religious worldview, we see a primitive, early, uncivilized human being, the man of the earliest ages. His conception is reflected most clearly in our closest neighbor, India, where their religion still provides living evidence of this outlook. The state of human thinking about the universe in the early period of human life. In the earliest days of life, man found himself utterly defenseless, weak, helpless, and powerless. When he was placed in this world, he discovered everything around him to be hostile and unfavorable. There were massive floods, volcanic mountains, storms, hurricanes, fireballs raining from the sky, the earth still burning hot, gigantic mountains, terrifying rivers, ferocious beasts, and amidst all this stood the defenseless human being. The only faculty given to man to confront these forces was intellect and thought, but at that time it was still in an undeveloped form. Man had not yet learned how to use it. Surrounded by such adverse conditions, the helpless human being knew only one way to seek protection from enemies and calamities: to plead, to beg, to supplicate, to flatter, to offer sacrifices. Thus his condition became such that when thunder roared, he folded his hands in submission. When lightning flashed, he fell in prostration. When a mighty river appeared, he began to call it Mata, mother. When a snake hissed, he offered it milk. He made the lion into a deity. He declared mountains as gods. He worshipped Agni Devi and Indra Devta. Nothing else came to his mind. In other words, he considered the entire universe as worthy of worship, and himself as the worshipper before the external universe. This was the earliest conception that religion gave man regarding the external universe. From here, we move forward, away from the world of religion, into the world of philosophy, which is called the world of intellect and reason. The conception of the universe according to Greek philosophers 2,500 years ago. About 2,500 years ago, Greece was the cradle of human intellect and thought. But what was the nature of the relationship between man and the universe in that cradle? The father of philosophers, Socrates, c. 469 to 399 BC, held the view that only the human self was worthy of study. The external universe was not even fit to be studied. Therefore, he made the study of man the central focus of his philosophy. This philosophy later influenced the East as well. The impact of Greek thought penetrated deeply into nations across the world, and its traces remained in our region for a long time, even until today. Thus, one of our renowned poets addresses man in these words: Sitamhad agar host kashad ki basar saru samandara, do zagan chakam nadasidei, daridil kushaba chamandara. It is sheer injustice if you rise and go out to stroll in gardens to see flowers and plants. Within your own self lies a garden. Open the door of your heart, step into it, and behold how beautiful this inner garden is. Not in the outer gardens, but in the inner garden you should wander. And in the words of Mirza Asadullah Khan Ghalib, 1797 to 1869, Hai aadmi bajaye khud ak mahshari khayal. Hum anjuman samajhte hain khilmat hi kyun na ho. Man himself is a tumult of thoughts. Even solitude we consider as an assembly. Socrates' conception of the universe that has not faded until today. According to Socrates, c. 469 to 399 BC, the human self alone is worthy of study. Moving forward from him, we encounter Plato, 384 to 322 BC, who went even further and overturned the entire outlook. He declared that the external world is nothing but an illusion of thought. It has no real existence. Whatever man imagines within his mind, he perceives it as existing outside. If there is no thinking heart, the external universe ceases to exist. In reality, it does not exist at all. This is why Plato asserted that knowledge acquired through the senses, perceptual knowledge, ilm bil hawas, or knowledge through perception, is highly unreliable and should never be trusted. This philosophy of Plato has remained deeply ingrained in the psyche of Eastern nations and continues to influence them even today. Hinduism's view of the material world as an illusion. I mention the East because the West, too, remained entangled in this illusion for centuries, but eventually they broke free from it. That is a separate historical account, how Francis Bacon, 1561 to 1626 AD, initiated this change, how he was influenced by the Quran, and how Muslim scientists of that era drew his attention to this reality. Nevertheless, Europe managed to break this web a few centuries ago. In the East, however, these concepts still dominate the intellectual outlook, and they deeply influenced Hindu philosophy. In their tradition, particularly in Vedanta philosophy, the material world, Madi Dunya, is called Maya, meaning illusion, mirage, or deception. They describe it as the dream of Ishwar, which will vanish the moment he opens his eyes. At most, they call it Ishwar's Leela, a play, a drama staged by the divine. This is why one of the names of Paramatma is Natarajan, meaning the king of actors, the supreme ruler of the theater. Their conception of the external universe is that, in reality, it does not exist. It is merely imagination, a dream, a theater, a drama. It neither truly exists, nor is it worthy of serious study, attention, or intellectual engagement. This is the very notion that, as I have said, has long overshadowed the minds of Eastern thinkers. In the words of Mirza Asadullah Khan Ghalib, 1797 to 1869, Hasti ke matfareb mein aa jayo asad, alam tamam halqa-e dame khayal hai. This entire world is but a circle of imagination. Beyond that, it holds no real significance. An unforgettable book on religion and science in the world of religions. In contrast, as I have mentioned, when Europe came into contact with the world of science, their science began to demonstrate that these things truly exist, that they possess specific properties, and that they have distinct qualities. At that point, a fierce conflict erupted between religion and science. You must have heard of the book Madake Mazhab was Science. It is a research work, originally titled in English as Conflict Between Religion and Science. This is a remarkable book. The Urdu translation, Madake Mazhab was Science, was done by the late Zafar Ali Khan, 1874 to 1956. But this book is not just a book. It represents an entire era of Europe, a period marked by a great struggle, a war between religion and science. Since the religious class, the church, still held great power and authority, the scholars and scientists, those who declared and understood the universe as real, faced severe persecution. So extreme were the atrocities that even for the simple statement that the earth is round or the earth revolves, they were hanged, their skins were flayed, and they were burned alive. Until very recently, such horrors were still being carried out there. Cosmic realities illuminated by revelation 1400 years ago. I have explained that in the world of religions, certain conceptions of the universe were prevalent. In those regions which we call the cradle of intellect and wisdom, the philosophy regarding the external universe was such that even in Europe, which today is considered a pioneer, al-Sabukun al-Awwalun, in discoveries about the cosmos, only 2 or 3 centuries ago, a person could be tortured or executed merely for saying that the earth is round or that it revolves. In contrast, let us look back 1400 years and turn our gaze to Arabia, a land which at that time was the most backward in terms of knowledge and science. To even mention science in that era would be irrelevant. Philosophically and intellectually, it was among the darkest regions of the world. In the midst of this region lay Hijaz, where people did not even know what the universe meant. And within this land, a man, peace be upon him, was born. Listen to what he said about the universe. Importantly, he declared, "I do not say this from myself." Even if he had not said so, it would still be evident that a man of that era could not have produced such knowledge on his own. Socrates, 469 to 399 BC, could not say it. Plato, 384 to 322 BC, could not say it, nor could the great philosophers of the East or West. Then how could a man from Arabia 1400 years ago have said it by himself? He presented his book and declared, "This is my source of knowledge," and right at its beginning it narrated, in a symbolic form, the story of the relationship between man and the universe.
The present condition of Hinduism still reflects its intellectual decline. Dear brothers, once again I say regarding man that this clear book is still present before you today. In contrast to its teachings, the religions of the world, especially Hinduism, even now regard the Ganges as Mata, mother. They still consider Indra, rain, as a deity. They still worship Agni, fire, as a goddess. They still venerate snakes, and they still call cows divine. Even today, in their temples, all these deities are established. All the manifestations of nature and the universe are bowed before and worship. In contrast, that unlettered prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam 1400 years ago declared that when Adam was created, all the forces of the universe prostrated before him. 1400 years ago, that man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his very first proclamation, transformed the worshipper into the worshipped and the worshipped into the worshipper.
Revelation lifted man from depths of ignorance to admirer of cosmic knowledge. My dear friends, people ask, what is the proof that the Quran is not the word of man? Leave aside the vast debates of metaphysics. I say, look at your world of concrete. The very first proclamation you encounter in Surah Al-Baqarah. Is this not testimony enough? 1400 years ago, in the land of Arabia, an unlettered man could not have said on his own that every force of the universe, described as angels, malaika, prostrated before Adam, bowing down to him. On what basis did they bow? It was not a mere story. The Quran explained, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا 231. Adam was endowed with the capacity to acquire knowledge of all things in the universe. And what is this knowledge of the objects of the universe? It is the realization that every entity in the cosmos operates according to a fixed, consistent law. If you come to know the law according to which a machine operates, that machine becomes obedient to you. Today you see how the lightning of the skies has been harnessed into the hands of man. Previously, when we spoke of the heavens, we hardly understood what we were saying. Now, sitting here on Earth within a room, the control of a rocket traveling to the moon is managed from afar. What is this phenomenon? It is the manifestation of وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا 231, that man was endowed with the capacity to acquire knowledge of the working formulas of the universe, atomic forces, radiant energies, and the principles by which distant communication occurs without any tangible medium. Consider, a rocket millions of miles away, near the moon, directly transmits its voice back to us. What is this? This is the realization of وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا 231. And let me emphasize again, when was this said? It was proclaimed at a time when the moon was worshipped as a deity, when the sun was revered as a god, and when philosophers declared the entire world is but a circle of imagination. In that very age, the Quran presented this truth.
Mention of the aesthetic dimensions of the universe. Before man. Now let us look at the relationship between man and the external universe. What does the Quran reveal? It first gave a principle, a concise statement, that man was made the one before whom the angels prostrated. Now the details of that principle appear in perceptible form. It says, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ دَائِبَيْنِ, the sun and the moon, which are constantly engaged in their orbits, O mankind, we have subjected them to you. To the human being who once bowed before these celestial bodies as deities, it is declared, those whom you considered your gods are in fact bound by the chains of law, subdued for your benefit. And further, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ, the alternation of night and day that you witness is also bound in the chains of law for you. The word lakum here, as scholars of Arabic know, is la nafir, meaning for your benefit. It is said, all of this has been subjected for your advantage, for your utility, so that you may derive benefit from these phenomena. This begins with the alternation of night and day and the subjugation of the sun and moon. Then it says, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ الْأَنْهَارَ, the rivers have been subjected for you. At first glance, this may not seem significant today, but ask those who once worshipped rivers as deities. To tell them that these rivers are not gods, but are made to serve human needs, was a profound declaration. These rivers flow so that they may benefit you, provide sustenance, and serve your purposes. This is a great subjugation indeed. After listing several such examples, the Quran concludes, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا مِّنْهُ. Whatever is in the heavens and the earth, in their heights and depths, God has subjected all of it for you. My dear friends, 1400 years ago, in the land of Arabia, an unlettered man proclaimed that everything in the universe, in its vastness and in its depths, has been bound by the chains of law for your benefit, and you have been granted the capacity to acquire knowledge of it. So, acquire knowledge and continue to bring every force under your command.
Every particle of the universe is a reality, not an illusion. Those who claimed that the external universe is nothing but an illusion, maya, mirage, or a circle of imagination were contradicted by the Quran, which declares, وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاءَ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا بَاطِلًا. We did not create the heavens and the earth and all that lies between them in vain. Whatever exists in the heights and depths of this universe is not an illusion. In Arabic, batil stands opposite to haqq. The word haqq signifies that which is a solid reality, truly existent, that which has come into being for a constructive purpose, that which possesses a definite purpose, and that which perfectly fits into the requirements of its function. This is the comprehensive meaning of haqq in Arabic, and the Quran uses it in this sense. In contrast, when the Quran uses batil, the distinction becomes clear. Those who say the universe is an illusion, that it does not exist, are mistaken. The Quran asserts, we created it bil haqq, as a solid reality. This universe is not a mirage. To call it such is merely conjecture. ذَلِكَ ظَنُّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. This is the assumption of those who deny the truth. It is not knowledge but mere speculation of those who reject reality. 1400 years ago, an unlettered man stood before the scholars of the world, before the philosophers, before Plato and Socrates, and declared, what you have said is nothing but conjecture, imagination, estimation, and assumption. It is not the truth, nor is it knowledge. He told the philosophers of Greece, this is not knowledge, it is merely your speculation. And in those very regions, only a few centuries later, philosophers themselves admitted that indeed what Plato and Socrates had said was mere conjecture and estimation. The universe truly exists bil haqq, as a solid, undeniable reality.
Ignoring cosmic realities is disbelief. My dear friends, when people ask what proof there is that the Quran is the word of God and not of man, the answer lies in the very truths it proclaimed. What Socrates and Plato could not say, that unlettered man declared with absolute certainty. ذَلِكَ ظَنُّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. 38:27. This is the conjecture of those who disbelieve. Notice where the word kufr appears. Reflect then on what iman must mean in contrast. To call the universe illusion, mere imagination, or conjecture is not knowledge, it is denial of reality. The Quran challenges the intellectual centers of Greece, declaring that their philosophies were nothing but dhann wa takhmin, speculation and guesswork. An unlettered man addressing the philosophers of the world, saying, what you speak is conjecture, not knowledge, is a challenge so profound that it could not have been the product of the human mind of that age. And when someone asks, what difference does it make if we call it conjecture? The Quran responds, do not think it makes no difference. It does make a difference. To ignore cosmic realities, to dismiss them as illusion, is kufr, denial of truth. To acknowledge them as purposeful, lawful realities is iman, affirmation of truth.
This universe, this world, is the very arena where man is meant to harness its forces and live a life of eternal love, beauty, and progress. Here, man is destined to elevate his existence, to ascend to heights, to traverse stages of evolution. But if one holds the belief that this universe is false, detestable, or meaningless, then his life here will become a hell. The Quran warns, فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنَ النَّارِ. Woe to those who deny the truth, for theirs is the fire. It further declares, ذَلِكَ ظَنُّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. This is the conjecture of those who reject reality. To deny the universe as a purposeful reality is not mere philosophy, it is disbelief, and disbelief transforms life itself into torment. Reflect on the comforts and advancements that surround us today. They began only when humanity freed itself from the old, worn-out, baseless imagination that the universe is an illusion. When man realized that the cosmos is bound within laws, that these laws can be studied, understood, and mastered, then he began to subdue its forces and employ them for his benefit. From that moment, the map of existence changed, the picture of life was transformed. The world of hardship became a world of ease, and the path of ignorance turned into the path of knowledge and mastery. This is the Quranic vision, to see the universe not as a mirage, but as a reality created bil haq, waiting to be discovered, understood, and harnessed for human progress.
Ignoring the utility and status of the universe after the rise of Islam. My dear friends, the Quran had already declared about those who consider the universe mere conjecture. فَوَيْلٌ لَلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنَ النَّارِ. Woe to those who deny the truth, for theirs is the fire. But sadly, not long after the rise of Islam, the very followers of the Prophet ﷺ themselves fell into the same conjectural outlook which he had warned against. The worldview that he had rejected as leading to hell was adopted by Muslims in the form of terk dunya, renunciation of the world, abandonment of its utility, and detachment from its realities. Among the paths of tariqat and marifat, many claimed that they bypassed the sharia and spoke directly to God. And what did they claim to have learned? That this world is detestable, unworthy, and to be abandoned. But reflect. To call the masterpiece of a creator detestable, is this praise of the creator, or is it a denial of his artistry? To dismiss the universe as vile is not reverence, it is ingratitude. Yet they insisted, we have asked God directly and he told us this. It was as if, in the words of the Torah, God regretted having created a universe that appeared vain, condemnable, and detestable. Certain groups claimed we have asked him directly and this is what he told us. But in reality, this was nothing more than the old Vedantic imagination and the philosophy of the Greek sages, translated into Arabic terminology and then assumed to be the very essence of faith. Thus the universe was declared detestable, matter was deemed only of renunciation, and abandonment of the world became the highest virtue. These ideas took root, that the material world was created solely for disbelievers, while the next world was reserved for believers. The believer's life here was imagined as that of a prisoner confined in a jail. All these notions were absorbed and accepted as religion. In this way, Deen, which had originally affirmed the purposeful reality of the universe, was transformed into mere religion. The matter is simple.
To understand the Quran, one must see its conception of the universe. My dear friends, to truly grasp the Quran, it is essential to examine what conception of the universe it presents. The ideas that later arose among Muslims brought about great upheavals, but that discussion belongs to another time when we turn to Islamic history. You are already familiar with much of Muslim history, but the history of Islam itself, what Islam as deen was, and how it later transformed into religion is worth deep study. The Quran declares, فَوَيْلٍ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنَ النَّارِ. Destruction is for those who deny the truth, who reject the reality that the universe has been created bil haq. This is a magnificent proclamation, an announcement of truth to humanity, something that had never been declared before. The Quran says, خَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِالْحَقِّ. God created the heavens and the earth bil haq. And it adds, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةٍ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Surely in this is a clear sign for those who believe, a sign to recognize the right way of life. In verse 38:27, denial of this reality was called kufr, disbelief. In verse 29:44, affirming this reality was called iman, faith. To consider the universe a purposeless game is disbelief. To acknowledge it as a purposeful, lawful reality is faith. This is the Quranic conception of the cosmos, a creation bil haq, not a plaything, but a meaningful, law-bound reality. The method to recognize the true value of the Quran's teaching. My dear friends, to understand the Quran,
one must first study the background of beliefs and philosophies that existed among different nations and religions before it. What were their ideas? What concepts did they hold? Once these are understood, it becomes clear what the Quran is refuting and what it is affirming. For instance, there was a long-standing belief that the universe and creation were nothing more than Ishwar Slila, a divine play. Even today, Hindus call it not Rajan. Against this, the Quran declares, وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لَاعِبِينَ 44:38. We did not create the heavens and the earth and all that lies between them as a mere play. The Quran makes it clear, God is not a player, nor is creation a child's toy or a stage drama where actors appear without reality, where kings are not truly kings and servants are not truly servants. This entire conception is false. Instead, the Quran asserts, مَا خَلَقْنَاهُمَا إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ 44:39. We created them only with truth, as a firm reality. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ 44:39. But most of them do not know. It is ignorance that leads people to imagine the universe as a purposeless play. The Quran, however, presents it as a purposeful, law-bound, and enduring reality.
Plato's view of sense perception and the Quranic teaching. Plato, 428 to 347 BC, maintained that knowledge acquired through sense perception is unreliable. He argued that the senses deceive, and therefore true knowledge must come from pure reason and abstract forms. The Quran, however, presents a different conception of knowledge. It declares, وَلَا تَقْفُوا مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ 1736. Do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. This is a profound principle. Knowledge must be based on evidence, not conjecture. The Quran then explains what constitutes knowledge. إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا 1736. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the mind, all of these will be questioned. Thus, the Quran affirms that sense perception, hearing, sight, and the faculties of the mind are the foundations of knowledge. These faculties are accountable for what they affirm, meaning that true knowledge is that which is verified through perceptual experience and rational reflection. In this way, the Quran provides a clear definition of knowledge. It is perceptual knowledge, derived from the senses, tested by reason, and confirmed by evidence. Where Plato distrusted the senses, the Quran elevated them as the very instruments through which man acquires reliable knowledge of reality. It is true that mere hearing or seeing does not qualify as knowledge. A madman hears, a lunatic sees, but their perceptions cannot be called knowledge. The Quran explains that the senses provide data, raw information, which is then directed to another center, the mind, fu'ad. This mind processes, filters, and evaluates the data, and from this process emerges what the Quran calls knowledge. Thus, the Quran defines knowledge as follows. Through the senses, man gathers information about the external universe. This information is presented to the inner faculty of the mind. The mind examines, scrutinizes, and derives correct conclusions. Those verified conclusions are called knowledge. This is the Quranic conception of knowledge, a synthesis of sensory input and rational processing. Plato, 428 to 347 BC, one of the greatest philosophers of Greece, dismissed sense perception as unreliable and untrustworthy. In contrast, the Quran affirms that perceptual knowledge, when tested and refined by the mind, is the very foundation of true knowledge. Where Plato doubted the senses, the Quran elevated them as indispensable instruments of human understanding. Those who do not use reason are fuel for hell in the Quranic view. The question arises, is all this discussion in the Quran merely academic, a theoretical teaching? The Quran's purpose is not abstract speculation. Every teaching leads to a living reality. Here, when the Quran defines knowledge, three faculties are highlighted: sight, hearing, and heart, mind. Those who fail to use these faculties are described in the Quran. وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. We have created for hell many of the jinn and mankind.
Whether in civilized cities or desert tribes, the Quran says you will find people whose very state testifies that they are living a hellish life. Who are these people? The Quran explains, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts but do not understand with them. They possess minds yet do not use them, eyes yet do not see, ears yet do not hear. Such neglect of intellect and perception is in the Quran's view the mark of those destined for hell. Their lives themselves bear witness to the torment they endure for failing to employ the faculties of thought and reflection granted to them. The Quran continues, وَلَهُمْ أَعْيُونٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا. They have eyes, yet they do not see with them. وَلَهُمْ آذَانٌ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا. They have ears, yet they do not hear with them. In outward form they appear human, but the Quran declares, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. They are like cattle, rather even more astray. Why more astray? Because animals, though limited, still use their instincts. A dog, for example, through its sense of smell, can detect things that even human instruments have not yet reached. Animals employ their innate faculties to survive and interact with their environment. But these humans, despite possessing higher faculties, sight, hearing, intellect, and heart, fail to use them. The Quran calls them أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. They are the heedless. To live in ignorance of one's environment and the universe, despite having the means to perceive and understand, is worse than the instinct-driven life of animals. Such people are described as destined for hell, for they squander the very faculties that distinguish human beings. These are the ones who do not employ their senses and intellect, and thus they are the true Ahli Jahannam.
The reflections of the people of insight on creation. In contrast to those who neglect their faculties, the Quran speaks of another group, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. 389. Surely in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of night and day, there are signs for those endowed with understanding. The Quran defines a sign, ayat, as something perceptible that points towards an unseen reality. Smoke is a sign that fire burns beneath. The barking of dogs in a desert signals the presence of habitation. In this way, the phenomena of the universe are signs pointing beyond themselves. But who are these people who recognize the signs? The Quran answers, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. 390. They are those who remember God standing, sitting, and lying down. Here, dhikrullah does not mean mere repetition of words or ritual chants. It means a constant awareness of God, an unbroken consciousness that permeates every state of life, whether standing, sitting, or reclining. The remembrance is not mechanical, it is reflective, thoughtful, and tied to the observation of the universe. Thus the Quran links intellect, aql, and remembrance, dhikr. The people of insight are those who, while engaged in the remembrance of God, contemplate the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of night and day. For them, the universe is full of signs, each pointing to the reality of divine purpose. The Quran makes it clear that dhikrullah is not left vague or undefined. Wherever it introduces a term, it provides its meaning. Those described as remembering God are explained as وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. 390. They are those who reflect upon the creation of the heavens and the earth. Thus, remembrance of God means to keep His laws and His order constantly before oneself. Whether standing, sitting, or lying down, these people maintain awareness of the divine system. They observe the functioning of the universe, its order and balance, and they continuously reflect upon it. This is what the Quran calls yadhkurun Allah, a living consciousness of God's laws at all times. In practice, they engage in deep reflection and research upon the cosmos. Their contemplation leads them to a profound conclusion. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. 390. Our Sustainer, you have not created this in vain. Through sustained study and investigation, they affirm that every aspect of creation is purposeful, not false or meaningless. The remembrance of God is inseparable from their intellectual engagement with the universe, and their research leads them to recognize the wisdom and truth embedded in creation.
The believer is one who recognizes purpose in all. My dear friends, such people are called mu'min, true believers. This is the essence of thikrullah.
The Quran records their conclusion after constant reflection. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Our Sustainer, you have not created this in vain. To investigate every aspect of the universe and to reach the conviction that nothing here is purposeless, this is faith. Scientists and researchers of the world are engaged in precisely this work. Even today, in the 20th century, we often look at things around us and think they are useless, without benefit, and wonder why God created them. Take the example of the wasp. To us, it seems nothing but a nuisance. Yet a few years ago, a group of scientists from South America came to collect these very wasps from here. When asked why, they explained, in their country a small insect devastates their crops. After years of research, they discovered that the wasp found here is the natural predator of that destructive insect. Since it does not exist there, they came to import it. This discovery confirmed the Quranic truth. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Our Sustainer, you have not created anything in vain. Every creature, every phenomenon has a role in the balance of existence. Nothing is created for destruction or without purpose. To recognize this truth after reflection is what makes one a moment. My dear friends, take the example of the snake. Commonly, it is thought of only as a messenger of death, a symbol of destruction. Beyond this, no other idea comes to mind. Yet in reality, even this creature has a purposeful role in the system of existence. I share a personal experience. After my surgery, when bleeding would not stop and all hope seemed lost, the final remedy that revived life was an injection prepared from snake venom. The doctors confirmed this. What was considered a symbol of death became in that moment a source of life. This is precisely what the Quran describes. يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Those who in every state of life, standing, sitting, lying down, keep God's laws before them and reflect upon the creation of the heavens and the earth. Through such reflection, they proclaim, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. 390. Our Sustainer, you have not created this in vain. And further, Subhanaka. 390. Glory be to you. It is inconceivable that a God like you would create anything purposeless. Rabb is the one whose purpose is to nurture everything from its point of origin to its completion. To call him Rabb and to affirm that nothing in the universe has been created in vain is to declare Subhanaka. 390. Glory be to you. When a scientist, after years of research, suddenly discovers in the test tube a hidden truth, his spontaneous exclamation is also Subhanaka, acknowledging that God's creation is far above purposelessness or destructive intent. It is our lack of knowledge and neglect of research that makes us unaware of the beneficial aspects of creation, and thus we live lives of torment. Truly, only He deserves to be called God. And then the prayer follows, فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. 391. Protect us from the torment of the fire. Meaning, grant us the ability, through scientific investigation and practical experimentation, to derive the rightful benefits from the things of creation and thereby be saved from a destructive life of suffering. The believer's mission, transforming hell into paradise. The hallmark of a true believer is that he strives to transform every corner of the universe from hell into paradise. This is the way to escape a life of torment. When people suffer from snake bites or wasp stings, their existence is marked by pain. Surely this is not paradise, but hell. The Quran describes the aspiration of the believers. Wherever research has not yet reached, and life still remains in a hellish state, they pray to the Rabb, the nurturer, to grant them the ability to ensure that no part of creation remains hellish, but is turned into paradise. This is why they say, Rabbana. And what is An-Nar, the fire? What is this hellish life? It is the condition of those who, after the universe has been researched, failed to benefit from its forces. Their lives are barren, their efforts wasted. The Quran says, Rabbana innaka man tudkhilin nara faqad akhsaytahu. Our Sustainer, whoever is made to live in the fire, his efforts are scorched and he is disgraced. History bears witness. Every nation that was bound by mere religiosity and whose conception of the universe was that it is detestable and to be renounced, was humiliated in comparison to other nations of the world. The standard of dignity and humiliation among nations.
The Quran presents a profound criterion for measuring the strength or weakness of nations. The standard is this: the more a nation is humiliated in comparison to others, the more it is bound by madhab parasti, mere religiosity. Conversely, the higher a nation rises, the more deen, the true system of life, is manifest within it, regardless of the name it adopts. The Quran declares, فَقَدْ أَخْسَيْتَهُ 391. Such a nation will be disgraced. And further, وَمَا الصَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ 391. The wrongdoers will have no helpers. Even if humiliated nations receive charity or aid from others, they must not mistake such assistance as friendship. Those who provide it will exploit them, not support them. Thus, the Quran links dignity with the proper use of the forces of the universe. Those who fail to harness these forces live a life of Jahannam, humiliation and disgrace. Jahannam here means a life of degradation. Aid may come, but it will not change their condition, nor will it make the donors their true allies.
The fundamental concept of taqwa in the divine system. My dear friends, reflect on where the discussion is leading. Now we no longer need to ask anyone whether such nations have helpers or not. The Quran itself declares, وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. The wrongdoers will have no supporters. These are ayat Allah, signs of God for those who ponder. First, the Quran spoke of yaqilun, those who use reason. Then it called them ulul albab, people of intellect. Then it said, Inna fi samawati wal ardi la ayatin lil mu'minin. In the heavens and the earth are signs for the believers. And further, وَفِي خَلْقِكُمْ وَمَا يَبُثُّ مِنْ دَابَةٍ آيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. In your own creation and in the creatures he has spread are signs for those who attain certainty. This is a stage beyond faith, the stage of yaqeen, certainty. In the religious world, the highest rank is considered muttaqi. Even among Muslims, people say, he is very pious, very muttaqi. But let us see how the Quran defines it. It says, Inna fi ikhtilafi al-layli wan-nahari wa ma khalaqa Allahu fi as-samawati wal-ardi la ayatin liqawmin yattaqun. In the alternation of night and day, and in what God has created in the heavens and the earth, are signs for those who are muttaqun. Thus, muttaqi are those who open the eyes of insight upon these signs, study them, and reach the truth. These are the believers, the faithful, the ulul albab, the people of intellect and vision. They acquire perceptual knowledge through their senses, and then, by reflection, arrive at correct conclusions.
Today's style of preaching, both noteworthy and regrettable. Beyond this, there is another verse after which nothing more really needs to be said. It is true that Islam should be preached across the world, in different countries, but the way it is being done today is both worth reflecting upon and deeply regrettable. On stages and pulpits, sermons are delivered declaring that the entire world is living a life of hell. Individuals find no peace, nations find no rest, the world is burning with unrest and anxiety. It is claimed that every system has failed, every ideology has collapsed, none has provided solutions. The claim then follows, we have one system, one code of life, which contains solutions to all of humanity's economic, social, cultural, and organizational problems. This is the only solution, the one that has never failed, never been defeated. Every particle of the universe testifies to it. The angels in the heavens glorify it. We possess it, the solution. Yet, after such lofty claims, the appeal often turns into, give us something, for God's sake. Preaching Islam becomes entangled with fundraising, reducing the grandeur of the message to mere collection drives. The real questions remain, how should Islam truly be preached, and by what means does faith enter the hearts? Is preaching simply about sermons and donations, or is it about guiding humanity to the truth? These are the essential questions, because the Quran's purpose is to lead mankind to reality, not to ritualistic speeches or religious business.
Today's style of preaching, both noteworthy
and regrettable. Beyond this, there is another verse after which nothing more really needs to be said. It is true that Islam should be preached across the world, in different countries, but the way it is being done today is both worth reflecting upon and deeply regrettable. On stages and pulpits, sermons are delivered declaring that the entire world is living a life of hell. Individuals find no peace, nations find no rest. The world is burning with unrest and anxiety. It is claimed that every system has failed, every ideology has collapsed, none has provided solutions. The claim then follows, we have one system, one code of life, which contains solutions to all of humanity's economic, social, cultural, and organizational problems. This is the only solution, the one that has never failed, never been defeated. Every particle of the universe testifies to it. The angels in the heavens glorify it. We possess it, the solution. Yet after such lofty claims, the appeal often turns into, give us something, for God's sake. Preaching Islam becomes entangled with fundraising, reducing the grandeur of the message to mere collection drives. The real questions remain. How should Islam truly be preached? And by what means does faith enter the hearts? Is preaching simply about sermons and donations? Or is it about guiding humanity to the truth? The faith of one who reflects with insight upon the heights and depths of creation. My dear friends, after describing all this, the alternation of night and day, the glorification of the sun and the moon, the Quran declares, Tilka ayatullahi natluha alayka bilhaq. These are the signs of God, which we recite to you in truth. Then it asks, فَبِأَيْ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدُ اللَّهِ لَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. After God and His signs, what discourse remains in which they will believe? In other words, if after these clear signs one still does not bring faith, then what else is left that could lead to believe? The Quran presents these ayatullah as the final and decisive evidence for faith. These are the signs which, when reflected upon with true insight, elevate a person's faith above all ambiguity. After witnessing them, man is compelled to bow down, to prostrate, and to humble himself before the Creator. This is the being of the universe, whose study, observation, and experimentation lead man to declare, Meri nigah ne tuk chukke kar diye sajde, jahan jahan se takaze asne yar hua. He bows in prostration before every particle that reflects the beauty of the Beloved. As James Jeans, 1877 to 1946, once said, I do not know who the priest calls God, but I do know that whoever has set in motion the order of the heavenly bodies, whatever he may be, before him my head bows involuntarily. The Quran states, فَبِأَيْ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. After God and His signs, what discourse remains in which they will believe? This is the Quran's final argument for faith. It is not only about the things of the earth. You have seen how it speaks also of the heavens. Before this, no one even conceived that the heavens contained realities worthy of study and observation. They were thought to be the domain of deities, or explained through the cyclic order of Greek philosophy.
The Greek philosophy of life, cyclic order versus straight path. You know well the philosophy of Greece. Their concept of life was based on cyclic order, a circular system. For them, life was not a sirat al-mustaqim, straight path, not something that advances forward, not a journey through evolutionary stages. Rather, life was seen as moving endlessly within a cycle. From this idea, they drew a conclusion. Since the celestial bodies, which they considered closer to God, are all round, therefore life itself must also be a circle. That was the extent of their understanding of existence. It is not something to laugh at. Had we lived in that era, we too would have thought the same way. At that time, no one could even conceive that the heavens contained realities worthy of study. Knowledge had not yet advanced, and scholars were unaware of what lay beyond. The Quran speaking of life in the heavens and the earth 14 centuries ago. My dear friends, listen to what the Quran declares, and then ask your heart whether such words could have been uttered by man 1400 years ago. It says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَثَّ فِيهِمَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ. Among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the living creatures he has spread within them. Notice the word fihima in both the earth and the heavens. The Quran speaks of life not only on earth, which is visible before us, but also of the possibility of life in the celestial bodies. 14 centuries ago, the Quran pointed to the existence of living beings in the heavens as well as the earth. The wonder does not end here. It affirms that in both realms, the terrestrial and the celestial, there are living creatures, signs of the Creator's power and wisdom. My dear friends, every living being, whatever its form may be, is called dabba. The Quran does not describe their shapes or figures, but it declares that the possibility of life exists both in the earth and the heavens. The Quran mentions both. Today, scientists have reached the conclusion that certain celestial bodies show signs of life. This is not from our own era alone. It is only in recent times that human beings have attempted to reach beyond the earth to establish contact with those realms, even to the point of landing. The moon may not yet show signs of life, but there are other celestial bodies where the possibility of life is being discussed, and efforts are underway to reach them. Only 10 years ago, it was beyond imagination that if there were living beings in those worlds, we might ever come together with them. Now listen to the Quran's verse.
وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَثَّ فِيهِمَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ وَهُوَ عَلَى جَمْعِهِمْ إِذَا يَشَاءُ قَدِيرٌ. Among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the living creatures he has scattered in both. And he has the power, whenever he wills, to bring them together. This was spoken 1400 years ago, pointing to the existence of living beings in both the earth and the heavens, and even to the possibility that one day they may be brought together.
Concepts about earth and heavens and the Quranic definition of scholars. My dear friends, let us now turn to the matter of our so-called ulama. You already know who are considered scholars today. Leaving aside their own field of study, in practical life, it is said of them that they cannot even thread a needle. Even in the 20th century, many of them still hold to notions such as the sky is a solid dome of glass with jewels embedded in it. There are 7 heavens, each separated by a distance of 500 years' journey. Above the 7th heaven lies a sea of water. In that sea stand 8 mountain goats, so large that the water reaches only to their knees. Upon the heads of these goats rests a throne called the Arsh, and upon that throne sits God. Those who complete such studies are then awarded certificates of distinction, declaring them to be alim. The plural of this title is ulama. In contrast, the Quran defines ulama not by such fanciful cosmologies, but by their ability to reflect upon the signs of God in the earth and the heavens, to study creation with insight, and to reach truth through knowledge and understanding.
Now, let us ask the Quran itself. Who are the true scholars? The Quran explains in vivid detail. أَلَمْ تَرَى أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَأَخْرَجْنَا بِهِ ثَمَرَاتٍ مُخْتَلِفًا أَلْوَانُهَا. Have you not considered how God sends down rain from the sky, and with it we bring forth fruits of diverse colors? It points to the miracle of rain reviving dead earth, and how from the same soil and the same water, tiny seeds produce trees and fruits of countless varieties. Then it says, وَمِنَ الْجِبَالِ جُدَدٌ بِيدٌ وَهُمْرٌ مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهَا. And among the mountains are streaks, white and red, of diverse hues. Even lifeless rocks, seemingly mute and barren, tell stories of evolution through their layers and colors. The Quran invites us to study these silent witnesses of history, to uncover the narratives hidden in their strata. It continues, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ. Walk among mankind and observe. وَالدَّوَابِ. Reflect upon the crawling creatures, insects, and minute organisms. وَالْأَنْعَامِ. Look at the cattle and livestock.
مختلف ألوانه كذلك. See how diverse and varied they all are. Thus, according to the Quran, ulama are not those who cling to fanciful myths, but those who study the signs of God in nature, rain, plants, mountains, mankind, animals, and even the smallest creatures, and through observation, reflection, and understanding, recognize the wisdom and diversity of creation. This is the Quranic definition of true scholarship.
The state of heart and mind of those who reflect upon the structure of the universe. My dear friends, the Quran says, "Perhaps you may not, but there are those who do ponder deeply upon these realities. When they contemplate this awe-inspiring workshop of the universe, they are overwhelmed by its grandeur, their hearts bow down, and they tremble." The Quran declares, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. It is only those among his servants who have knowledge that truly fear God. These are the people called ulama. They reach the realization that Inna Allaha Azizun Ghafur. God is Aziz, the one who possesses immense powers, and Ghafur, the one who safeguards this universe from destruction. Here, the Quran presents divine attributes in relation to the cosmos. If you wish to understand that the Quran is indeed a book of established realities, then see the method it lays out. سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. We shall show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth. As human knowledge advances, the hidden mysteries of the universe are unveiled one after another, and with each unveiling, every curtain that is lifted proclaims that the Quran is a reality firmly established. The revelations of cosmic secrets themselves become proofs of the Quran's truth.
Religion thrives in darkness, but Deen embraces discovery. Religion has always grown in darkness, ignorance, and superstition. It was religion that feared the revelations of science, thinking that once discoveries were made, it will perish. Religion is like a bat. It survives in darkness. It can see there, but when light appears, it becomes blind. Deen, however, is of a different nature. Deen challenges the discoveries of the world. It declares that every new revelation must serve as evidence of its truth. It invites mankind, come, discover. My dear friends, here lies the crucial point. Those who reflect upon the realities of the universe, who acquire perceptual knowledge through their senses, who advance sciences through exploration, who harness the forces of nature and put them to use. The Quran calls them mu'min and mutaki. Are European nations counted among the category of believers? This question naturally arises. The European nations, who have achieved so much in science, technology, and exploration, should they then be counted among those whom the Quran calls momin or mutaki? The answer is no. The reason is that life is not limited to the realm of physical laws or the external universe alone. A great part of life is human life itself. Just as the external cosmos operates under immutable divine laws, so too has God given unchanging laws for human conduct and society. But these laws are not scattered in nature for discovery through science. They have been revealed through wahi, revelation. The Quran teaches, harness the forces of the external world through knowledge and skill, but then employ their fruits in accordance with the laws revealed in the Quran. When both aspects are combined, mastery of the physical universe and obedience to the revealed moral order, then such a people are called momin. The two essential dimensions of life for believers and disbelievers under divine law. My dear friends, the Quran explains that those who do not reflect upon the laws of the universe are disbelievers. Alongside this, it declares, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Those who do not judge according to what God has revealed are indeed disbelievers. Thus, life has two major aspects in the light of divine law. First, contemplation of the cosmic laws, the external universe governed by immutable principles. Second, the regulation of human affairs according to the laws revealed in the Quran. Neglecting either dimension leads to disbelief. The Quran then presents examples of past nations,
وَلَقَدْ مَكَّنَّاهُمْ فِيمَا أَمَّكَّنَّاكُمْ فِيهِ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُمْ سَمْعًا وَأَبْصَارًا وَأَفْئِدَةً 46:26. We had established them with power greater than yours, and we gave them hearing, sight, and hearts. They were not primitive or uncivilized. They possessed all means of knowledge and intellect. They used them, but selfish desires dominated, and they opposed divine laws. Therefore, فَمَا أَغْنَى عَنْهُمْ سَمْعُهُمْ وَلَا أَبْصَارُهُمْ وَلَا أَفْئِدَتُهُمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Their hearing, sight, and hearts availed them nothing. إِذْ كَانُوا يَجْحَدُونَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ. Because they knowingly rejected the signs of God revealed for their lives. وَحَاقَ بِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. That which they mocked surrounded them, and the very consequences they ridiculed engulfed them. In the end, only their stories remained as lessons for those who come after. Now the matter stands fully clear. Through scientific discoveries and research, mankind is to harness the forces of nature in the external universe. But these forces must be employed in the light of God's laws, revealed through wahi and preserved in the Quran, for the benefit of humanity. If one only subdues the forces of the cosmos, yet does not live according to these revealed laws, then even their social life becomes a life of hell. This is the condition that has overtaken the nations of the West today. As Iqbal, 1877 to 1938, expressed, "Don't mala sitaron ki guzargahon ka अपने अफकार की दुनिया में सफ़र कर न सका, जिसने सूरज की शुआओं को गिरफ्तार किया, ज़िंदगी की शब तारीक सफ़र कर न सका." That dawn was destined to arise only in the light of the radiant sun of the Quran.
The three categories of humanity today. My dear friends, humanity today can be divided into three categories. The first category consists of those nations who, along with harnessing the forces of nature, also follow the divine laws revealed in the Quran. Such a nation is called Momin and Muttaqi. Its worldly life will be radiant, and its future, the hereafter, will also be luminous. The second category consists of those nations who harness the forces of nature but reject God's laws in their social life. In this category fall the nations of the West. They cannot be called Momin. By mastering nature, they will surely gain material comforts, but their social life will be a life of hell. The Quran declares that they will have no share in the future. The third category consists of those nations who neither harness the forces of nature nor live according to God's laws. What should they be called? Ask yourselves. Such a nation's worldly life will be dark, full of humiliation and disgrace, and its hereafter will also be one of destruction and hell. As the Quran says, وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي هَذِهِ أَعْمَى فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ أَعْمَى وَأَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. Whoever is blind in this world will be blind in the hereafter as well, and even more astray. Iqbal expressed this truth in his verses. वो खाल के रमो ऐश पे कुछ हक नहीं रखता, जो आज खुद अफरोज और जिगर सोज नहीं है. वो कौम नहीं लाइक़े हंगामा फरदा, जिस कौम की तकदीर में अमरोज नहीं है. ज़रबे खलीम, आज और कल.
The golden saying of the Holy Prophet about human life. The presence of Imraz, today, in destiny, is that vital element which shines like a diamond in the light of the authentic saying of the Prophet. He said, Man istoa yalma, fahu maghbun. The one whose 2 days are alike is in loss. If a person's today and tomorrow are the same, then understand that he is ruined. Likewise, if a nation's present is not ahead of its past, then know that such a nation is destined for destruction. This is the nation where deen is replaced by mazhab. The measure becomes clear. The farther a people are from deen, and the deeper they sink into mazhab, the more they will face humiliation in this world. And the more they are disgraced here, the darker will be their hereafter. Where deen prevails, the forces of nature are harnessed, and their fruits are employed for the benefit of humanity in the light of the permanent values given by the Quran. Then this worldly life becomes paradise, and the life of the hereafter also becomes paradise. This was the explanation of Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 264, with which today's lesson began. Now the time has come. In the next lesson, we shall begin with verse 165. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ.